This is the Asus ROG Flow Z13, which came out at the start of 2022. But is it still worth it? Let's find out. But before that, let's hear a word from our sponsor. Thanks to Surfshark for sponsoring this video. What is Surfshark? Surfshark allows you to browse the internet safely and securely by encrypting your internet traffic and using a safe, protected IP. It also allows you to access geo-restricted content and bypass government restrictions. Learn how to secure your digital life and get a massive 83% off plus an extra 3 months free by using the coupon code TechArc at checkout, or click the link in the description below. Starting with the specs, the Z13 I have here comes with the i9-12900H, 16GB of 5600MHz LPDDR5 RAM, a 1920x1200 16x10 120Hz IPS touch display, an RTX 3050 Ti, Wi-Fi 6, a 1TB NVMe SSD, and last but not least, a 56 Wh battery. Next up is the port selection, and the Z13 is kinda limited when it comes to ports. It comes with a single 3.5mm audio jack, a single USB 2.0 port, yes, a single USB 2.0 port in 2022. There's also a volume up and down rocker and a power button that doubles as a fingerprint reader. On the other side of the laptop we have a Thunderbolt 4 port that supports DisplayPort and is used for charging. Also covered by a bit of silicon is Asus's ROG XG mobile interface to connect to an external GPU, which has its own USB Type-C port, which this particular model of the laptop doesn't come with. And on the back, covered by the kickstand, is a microSD card slot. Sneaky. Next up is the design, and the Z13 is an edgy one at that, with lots of gamer aesthetics and lots of vents and gamer text all around. It has a nice little display window on the PCB behind the back that glows RGB, which is cool. On the back is also the back-facing camera, which I'll get to later. The kickstand is nice and sturdy and is made of metal like the rest of the body, so it definitely will not break when in use. When you open up the keyboard, you are greeted with a nice, soft, lush typing area, which feels great on my hands. The keyboard itself has decent travel to it. It's not the best, but considering it's a slim tablet notebook form factor, I would say it's fine. It also has RGB. The trackpad is pretty small. It takes a while to get used to, but it tracks pretty well and is okay considering the size. The keyboard area is detachable with this magnetic pin port and easily snaps back on to switch to tablet mode. The speakers here sound alright. They get pretty loud and have some bass. The display here, as I said, has a 16:10 aspect ratio and is 1920x1200 and is a touchscreen, which is expected obviously as this is a tablet. It gets pretty bright and looks fantastic with rich colors, deep blacks, and sharp details. It's also very smooth in games with its 120Hz panel, but you can't really show that on a 30fps video. Like I said, on the back is a camera, and there's also a webcam on the front. They look okay but aren't the best, even in bright lighting conditions. The Z13 also has an upgradable SSD which can be accessed through the hatch on the back. Sadly, everything else including the RAM is soldered to the motherboard, but again, that's expected given its form factor. Last but not least, the included charger that you get is up to 100 watts and charges the laptop from 0 to 100% in about 1.5 hours, which is pretty good. Next up is the battery life. When idle, the Z13 lasted only 6 hours, and while playing back video, it lasted around 5 hours and 40 minutes. That's pretty short given that this laptop comes with a 56 Wh battery, but we don't have anything to compare it to yet, as this is our first laptop review. Like and subscribe and turn on the notification bell for more laptop reviews. Power and thermals are next, and in Cinebench R23 the 12900H peaks at 95 watts, while in Spider-Man, which I'll get to later, the CPU peaks at 87 watts. But this was quickly short-lived as the CPU immediately thermal throttled, which degraded the performance, reaching a max of 94 degrees Celsius in Cinebench and a max of 87 degrees Celsius in Spider-Man before thermal throttling. The degraded performance is also partially thanks to the Z13's power limits that are imposed. More so in Spider-Man, as the GPU and CPU have to share power. On the other hand, in Spider-Man, the GPU peaked at 40 watts, which is its limit and only reaches a max of 70 degrees Celsius, which is probably due to the CPU's immediate thermal throttling, which generated less heat. The laptop did kind of get hot around the back, but all the heat generating components are situated near the screen, so the keyboard and palm rest area stay completely cool. There are two fans situated right at the top of the laptop that blows hot air directly out the top, which is nice. Next up is the noise, and there are a couple of modes to switch to for fan noise. We'll test the laptop in silent and turbo mode under load in Cinebench R23 to see how loud it gets. It got pretty loud in turbo mode, quickly ramping up, but in silent mode it stayed fairly silent. Next up are the benchmarks, and starting with PugetBench, the laptop performs pretty well, scoring 988 in Photoshop, 771 in After Effects, and 674 in Premiere Pro. I did think the Premiere Pro score was a little lower, as this could be another instance of that 12900H thermal throttling, but we again have nothing to compare it to. Next up in the Procyon Office Suite, the Z13 scores 8150 in Excel, 7,745 points in Word, and 6,848 points in PowerPoint. In Blender, the Z13 took 419 seconds to complete the classroom render, and 169 seconds for the bursty BMW 27 render. In the intensive Chromium code compile benchmark, the Z13 took 6,119 seconds to compile, and in Cinebench R23, in multi-core, the Z13 scores 13,427 points, and single-core it scores 1,923 points. In the more graphics-oriented tests such as 3D Mark Wildlife, the Z13 scored 25,640 points, and scored 4,555 points in 3D Mark Time Spy. Lastly, in 3D Mark Storage, the Z13 scores 1,452 points. Next up is gaming. Starting in CSGO in high settings, we see pretty disappointing performance with 265 FPS on average, with 1% lows getting 38 FPS and 0.1% lows getting 36 FPS. We are heavily limited by our GPU, however, which will become the theme of this laptop. In Cyberpunk 2077, on medium to low settings, DLSS off, the Z13 gets a pretty disappointing 47 FPS on average, with 1% lows at 35 FPS and 0.1% lows at 21 FPS. In Forza Horizon 5 on the medium preset, the Z13 gets an average of 80 FPS, with decent 1% lows at 63 FPS and decent 0.1% lows at 58 FPS. In Rainbow Six Siege low preset, the Z13 gets around 218 FPS on average, with very decent 1% lows at 170 FPS and 0.1% lows at 138 FPS. This is a pretty good gaming experience here, as you're always getting above 120 FPS, which is the refresh rate of the display as said before. Last up in Spider-Man Remastered, with very low preset ray tracing off, we see an average of 70 FPS with 1% lows of 42 FPS and pretty terrible 0.1% lows of 3 FPS. The game felt pretty stuttery, and that's shown in the 0.1% lows figure. Last up is the conclusion, and I would say this laptop is pretty good for it being a portable slim laptop. There are a few caveats with that. I would say the overall build quality was excellent. It's metal all around with a nice soft keyboard, but its ports were a bit lackluster to say the least, with only a single USB 2.0 port and a single Thunderbolt 4 port and a headphone jack. Although the SD card does make up for that a bit. The screen is fantastic with rich colors and sharp visuals, and it looks buttery smooth with its 120Hz refresh rate. The keyboard was pretty good, but it wasn't anything to amaze me. The touchpad was a little too small for my liking, but it's fine considering its form factor. On the other hand, battery life was okay considering that it has a 12900H in it. However, the thing that majorly lets down this laptop is its performance. It's massively held back by not only the poor thermals but also that RTX 3050 Ti. In all games, the GPU ended up bottlenecking the i9 12900H, even though the CPU was already being kneecapped by the thermals. General performance and productivity was pretty good, but again in some workloads, the CPU was still thermally throttled. You're just not getting the full 12900H's worth of performance here, and that's expected considering its form factor and configuration. You could opt for their dock version with an external RTX 3080, but they'll run you a cool $3,000 US. You could also opt for their i5 12500H model, which would alleviate the bottleneck a bit, but that comes with a non-TI 3050. But would I recommend buying it? No, it's f***ing $2,175 US. For the same price, you could get a Ryzen 9 5900X build with 32GB of RAM and a full-blown 3090. Now that prices for GPUs have come down tremendously for GPUs, I just don't see the point in spending all that money for little performance to show for it. It's just not worth it at all. Anyways guys, that's all for today. Make sure to like and subscribe and watch this video right here.